Spooky season is upon us, so I figured let's get a jump on it. Today we are going over the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Blackest Night Atrocitus Wave action figure set. And within this, there's the Kyle Rayner, and we can see here all the lovely packaging that he comes in. See that he comes with the chest of Atrocitus, normal packaging, and I love that they kind of show you how you need to build it here on the side. There is Kyle Rayner, as we just said. The next one in the way that we'll be going over is Deathstorm, which is a zombie version of Firestorm. And of course, what set is not complete without a zombie Batman? Love this one. Great ways for action figure photography, and we will get into that here in a minute. And the last one in the wave is a zombie Superman. This is the Earth 2 one that passed away. And all these figures look absolutely amazing. But now that we look at them here in the box, are they worth anything? Taking them out. Let's crack them open and get a closer look at each and every one of them. Since we have so many figures, these backstories are going to be a little brief. Let's start with Firestorm, or as he's calling Blackest Nights, Deathstorm. Ronnie Raymond and Nobel Prize-winning physicist Martin Stein fused together to become the first incarnation of Firestorm. First appearing in Firestorm, the Nuclear Man #1 from March 1978, and was created by Gary Conway and Al Milgrom. Ronnie and Stein were caught in an accident that allowed them to fuse into Firestorm, the Nuclear Man. Due to Stein being unconscious during the accident, Ronnie was permanently in command of the Firestorm form, with Stein, the voice of reason inside his mind, able to offer suggestions on how to use their power. During the 2004 Identity Crisis event, Ronnie was killed by the Shadow Thief. In Blackest Nights, he is called back by a black power ring to join the Black Lantern Corps. Unlike other Black Lanterns, the undead Firestorm mimics the personality of Ronnie Raymond, often wisecracking and exhibiting other stereotypical teenager behavior. Kal-El Superman of Earth 2 is the parallel world that was retroactively established as the home of characters whose adventures have been published in the golden age of comic books. At the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths, Alexander Luthor transported Kal-El, Lois Lane, Superboy of Earth Prime, and himself into a paradise dimension, sealing themselves off from the universe. Though during the Infinite Crisis, Kal-El dies, succumbing to kryptonite, defeating Superboy Prime. He and his Lois Lane are revived by the Black Lanterns during Blackest Night, intending to reunite the Prime Earth's Kent family with Jonathan Kent in death. Kyle Rayner was created by writer Ron Mars and Daryl Banks. His name Kyle was apparently inspired by Kyle Reese from Terminator. His first appearance was Green Lantern Volume 3, number 48 from January 1994 as part of the Emerald Twilight storyline. DC Comics replaced Hal Jordan with Kyle, who was the sole Green Lantern for years into the late 1990s. The Green Lantern ring was thrust upon him by Ganthet, saying, "You'll have to do," after Hal becomes Parallax, destroying and killing off the entire Green Lantern Corps and the central battery on Oa. When Kyle took possession of the ring, he didn't take it seriously. His girlfriend, Alexander DeWitt, encouraged him to be more responsible and helped him train. Tragically, she was murdered and stuffed in a refrigerator by the supervillain Major Force in the controversial Green Lantern number 54 from August of '94. The guilt over this event made Rayner take his role more serious and strove to be the best Green Lantern he could in honor of Alex's memory. Rayner is forced to battle a Black Lantern version of Alex during Blackest Night. Atrocitus. First appearing in Green Lantern Volume 4, number 25 in 2008, he was created by Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver. Rogue Manhunters rampage through Space Sector 666. Atrocitus was one of the only 5 beings in the entire sector to escape death, witnessing his own wife and daughters being killed by one of those rampaging robots. Renaming himself Atrocitus, he and the other 4 survivors formed a cabal known as the Five Inversions, bent on the destruction of the Guardians of the Universe and all who served them. In the aftermath of the Sinestro Corps War, Atrocitus forges a Red Lantern power battery, utilizing the power of rage. During Blackest Nights, one of the black power rings descends onto Yosemite reanimating the bodies of the inversions Atrocitus had murdered and built his core upon. The Black Lanterns ripped out Atrocitus' heart. However, because of the Red Lantern rings, they can regenerate the wielder's heart, and it didn't kill him. So there's quick backstories. The zombie Batman. Go back, read Batman R.I.P., where Batman allegedly dies, and towards the end of Blackest Nights, Necron brings this Bruce Wayne, reanimating him and throwing Black Lantern rings on superheroes that had died previously, like Green Arrow, Aquaman, Superman, etc., so forth, bending those superheroes to his will. We do come to find out later, though, spoiler alerts, that this is not Bruce Wayne. Go read Final Crisis, Blackest Nights, and Batman R.I.P. to read more about this Batman, as well as Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin. So with all that said, each character comes with a trading card, and I'm so thankful that they're using artwork again instead of other people's action figure photography, because that's just a personal preference of mine. And I'll make sure to get the back sides of the cards so you guys can read each and every character at your convenience. The only one that didn't come with a card that kind of chaps my hide is Atrocitus, but we'll let that go. Now for accessories, Kyle comes with a power battery, which I wish it was a little more translucent, but it's a nice piece nonetheless. There is a little bit of detail to it. I love, of course, that it has the Green Lantern logo there. Just a nice little addition. And then he comes with a power construct sword. The only time I've ever really recall seeing Kyle use a sword was when I think it wasn't Tower of Babel. It's a Morrison JLA book where the Virtue and Vices, I think is what the graphic or the collected trade called it. But this Justice League is basically turned to do evil, and he gets into a sword fight with Alan Scott, and it's a great little piece. But nonetheless, just to have this, gorgeous. Looks kind of like He-Man's power sword to a degree. I can't complain. The only other accessory comes with Deathstorm, which is a Black Lantern battery, which I wish they would have put some more, like, black dry brushing on it. Because I don't recall their lanterns being... I thought they were just jet black, and then when the White Lantern appeared, it was this one we saw, the silver one. But nonetheless, I wish that, like with the DC Direct ones, they made these two bottoms, or no, they made the front and the back translucent so you can get light through it. So I'm a little disappointed that we don't have that with this iteration of them. But nonetheless, to have lanterns like this would have been great. I wish we would have gotten one for a Red Lantern one for Atrocitus, and I don't understand why they didn't give one to Kal-El there. It's frustrating. Oh well. Now for the paint apps, I'm glad to have a McFarlane version of Kyle Rayner, don't get me wrong. The only thing is I don't understand why, with all the stuff that they put Kyle through in Blackest Nights, that for this sculpt they gave him more of a smile. I wish that there would have been more of a grimace or just kind of a more blank expression, but that kind of like, hey guys, what's going on? And it just kind of bugs. But for Kyle, I've always loved the design. Like, instead of just giving him like a regular superhero mask like Hal had, I'm glad that they kind of gave it a more full facial one to kind of hide more of his features. His uniform, that OG one where they put the lantern here on the side instead of in the middle. Blacks and greens look great. White gloves look good, and I'm glad that you can't really see that ugly-ass ball joint. I wish that they would have paid more attention to the ring, but it just looks like a green dot. But nonetheless, gorgeous looking figure there. I love the paint sculpts on Superman, just that very undead face and those nasty, nasty yellow teeth. And of course the red eyes here to show his heat vision power. The black around the eyes, just great work on the very rotting zombie flesh. He doesn't have a black ring on his finger. It's disappointing. But nonetheless, the silver paint apps here, great. I love, even though this isn't a bendy cape, which they totally missed the mark. It's a shame that McFarlane didn't start doing the bendy wires sooner, but at least it's very loose, so you're not fighting a big, heavy plastic cape. But yeah, those blacks and silvers all the way down the character look great, and I love the little Kryptonian headband that they give him there. Just great stuff all around. Firestorm looks absolutely beautiful. Deathstorm, as they call him in this, but I love that the hair is kind of translucent, so you can see here with the light, at least kind of gives this a pop instead of a dark color. That skull face there with the stretched back Ghost Rider look there just looks great. The logo, of course, for Firestorm. And I just love how the suit almost looks organic, like it's part of him. Like it's just somehow bonded to him. Just the whole painting together looks great. Now, what drives me nuts, though, is this Kyle Rayner, to a degree, has a semi-butterfly joint. I wish that would have came in further. And I think the only other one that kind of has something similar, is it this one? No. I think it's Firestorm. Superman, Firestorm, Atrocitus, and this Batman here suffer not having a butterfly joint, which would have been great. Because there's times where in the comic where Ronnie is sitting there crossing his arms and kind of gloating that he's going to kill everybody. Which one of the kills he does in the comics, it's heart-wrenching. I went over the whole Blackest Nights thing last Halloween, so I'll leave a playlist up here for you guys to check out after this review. But going back to the butterfly joint, I wish that would start to become standard both for big bulky characters as well as like the Spider-Man characters. Just for this reason alone, because this chest just really limits your range of motion. But still, beautifully painted. Love this piece. And I'm not going to lie, even though this Atrocitus looks good, I've used this Batman for some photography already. And even though he's kind of become a peg warmer, I've seen him all over the place, I feel like he is definitely a slept-on character. Because, yeah, I know McFarlane has released a lot of Batmans, and you get a little bit of Batman fatigue. But in terms of a zombie Batman, hell yeah, I love this one. I love that they kind of have that Nightfall cape, the very traditional trademark McFarlane look there. And then just like with Superman, that nasty just rings. And I love that they gave the Black Lantern symbol over the Batman look there. And I like that they kind of used the more militaristic Batman body mold there. All the gray just looks great. I wish that they would have maybe made it look a little torn, like he just came out of the grave. But I like that they at least made the cape very remnant of McFarlane. But again, as I was just saying, in terms of not having the bendy wire, we're stuck with this big heavy-ass cape. So I'm glad that he's really starting to go away from this. I wish Hasbro would do the same thing with the Marvel Legends line, because I'm so tired of heavy capes. But yeah, I think in terms of like photography, for me, this is definitely my favorite from the line thus far. This Atrocitus, as we just seen, I love how heavy this sucker is and how big he is compared to the DC Direct one. But that head sculpt, very well done. Of course, the Red Lantern logo there. I hate that this thing pops on, because whenever you have stuff that pops on and off, you always have that proclivity for it to fall off, and it just drives you mad. But yeah, Atrocitus and Larifleeze are probably my two favorites from the Blackest Nights. I've gone over the DC Direct Larifleeze, so I'll leave a link for you guys to check that out. But yeah, this is very much Atrocitus in a nutshell. And I'm glad that they really caught that lightness, and I don't really care to get the Batman version. Like I said, you can get Batman fatigue. But yeah, this is very much a nice upgrade from the one that we got back in the early 2000s. I can't complain. Articulation-wise, the only thing with Atrocitus that I'm really concerned about, we're going to find out together, is when you're building him, this part pops in and off, so let's see what happens if we spin his arm. Well, it doesn't look like it comes off too bad. I was a little concerned about that. So we might be all right. So let's try to do a full 360 here. Long as you're careful, that at least gives away and pops back relatively easy. So thankful for that. Arm goes up like that. Double jointed. Of course, the ball joint, which I'm glad, because of these big gloves, it's hidden, because those ball joints that McFarlane uses is ugly as sin. Dumbbell joint, head goes down. Ooh, his head popped off. Head can go back that far. That the way side to side. Now, as I always say, make sure to warm up your figures, because every single one of these suckers was tight when I first got them out of the packaging, so just be careful. I am glad that he bends both at the waist and the chest, so you can get him to go down that far. Pretty good far backwards that way, and then of course you can twist all over the place like that for that reason, which I appreciate. Legs go up, leg pops out. That's one thing about McFarlane Build-A-Figures is and not as good as Hasbro in terms of staying together. So I've had to warm that leg up several times. Go up that high. Thankfully, due to the plastic butt flap, leg can go back that far. Double jointed. Foot goes up, foot goes down, and of course the toe pivot, which I'm really starting to enjoy. I hated those when I first saw them, but in terms of photography, damn, has it helped immensely. And I'm glad that we're finally starting to get leg swivels. No boop swivel, but you can at least move the foot side to side. Kyle, from what I've seen, he's the only one that has sort of a semi-butterfly joint, so you can at least kind of get a better range of motion that way. Of course, that way. Double jointed. Ball joint. Spinny, spinny. And then just like Atrocitus, you can bend it both directions, which I love, having that range of motion. Head goes up that much. Head goes down that much. Spin, spin. Side, side. 90 degrees. Back. Double jointed. Toe pivot. Side to side. Up and down. Firestorm, and just like I just said a minute ago, I wish that they would start giving butterfly joints to every character, because we were just talking about. Can't bend that. Got to be a little careful with this. You can spin it. You just have to be careful because there's no clearance that way, and that is not super flexible. And then each character, as I just said, I forget, it's the upper bicep swivel. Double jointed. Up and down. All around. Can spin that way. Leg up. Leg back. Double. Up and down. Side to side and toe pivot. Again, no butterfly joint, so it's just sort of like, damn it. So head. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Double jointed. Spinny, spinny. Ball joint goes side to side. That way. That way. That way. Up and down, side to side. Toe pivot. And then lastly, I love this character, sorry. I love using him with characters like Deadman or John Constantine. Hell yeah. So that way, of course, that hard cape you have to kind of work around. This one sort of has a butterfly joint like Kyle's, but it's not as pronounced. And of course, you have the bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow. I love those claws. It's just so awesome. Spin it that way. Get that whole range of motion like that, that. Put up that ugly ass cape like that. Double jointed knees, foot, zzz. So, butterfly joint, aside, the articulation's not too super bad. I mean, at least you get a nice, relatively good range of motion. I mean, it's nothing to write home about. But still, we get a relatively damn good wave out of this. I mean, all that to build this, at least it's not like the ridiculous amount that you have to do for the Marvel Legends. I think overall, this is a really great wave. Some articulation I just set aside, beautifully well done, and I'm glad to have more Blackest Night figures. I'm excited. What do y'all think of them? I really do like this Blackest Night set that McFarlane has released. However, I must admit that I'm still a sucker for the DC collectible ones that came out couple years ago. I don't know. I mean, you put this one up against the new Build-A-Figure Wave Atrocitus, and yes, he is super duper tiny. But I love the detail they put on this one, especially that horrendous, ugly face. I mean, this one is definitely more comic accurate, as we talked about. But this particular one just holds a special place in my heart. Same thing with the Kyle Rayner, where this one, he's just, I mean, we've already talked about this, but he just looks too damn chipper compared to this one. I mean, this one has more realism to it, but this is definitely more comic accurate. But nonetheless, to be able to have an updated Kyle Rayner in my collection, especially a more articulated one, because this one, that was one thing that kind of killed me about this, is they made a more statue action figure. So I can't complain too much. I guess just the time when Blackest Nights came out and they were just releasing these figures left and right, it was a special time in my life. It was really cool to get all the Green Lantern swag from that time period. For those of you that were around then, you remember how when you go to get the comics, they would always come out with the power rings, and then of course the action figure line, and just it was really a time to be a Green Lantern fan, and especially if you were a horror fan, just seeing all the zombie versions like this, the Superman zombie. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Not Kal-El. It's not Con-El. You guys know what I'm talking about. But the Earth 2 Superman, and especially Kyle's first girlfriend. I can't remember her name either off the top of my head, but just that horror aspect, and we got some really cool designs. That's what I really liked about the Deathstorm here. Just, I love this madness, especially from growing up with the early McFarlane Toys Spawn figures and whatnot. Just seeing what he's doing with the DC line is just really exciting. Kind of bringing these more unsung comic series to light, and hopefully inspires a new generation of fans. Like, I've seen this zombie Batman all over the place, but I really do feel like he's kind of a slept-on figure. That thing is nightmare fuel and just fun to photograph. So I leave it to you guys. What do you think? Did you enjoy the first wave that we got way back in the early 2000s? Do you enjoy this one? Or are you hoping that Todd will kind of revisit this and bring more of the Blackest Night figures? Because I would love to see a St. Walker. I would love to see Ganthet and all that stuff, because we finally got that Killhawk. We will eventually go over that one. But I'm excited. What do you all plan to do with your Blackest Night figures? Are you going to photograph them? Are you going to display them on a shelf? We'd love to see pictures of them over on our social media pages. Overall, I thoroughly love this wave. I enjoyed the original DC Direct line that came out with the Blackest Nights, and now to have a more updated, more articulated, and detailed version, I could not be happier. I wish we got a couple of more figures from the wave, but it's nice that they didn't really, other than Kyle Rayner and Atrocitus, re-release figures. We got a zombie Batman, we got that kind of more zombie Earth 2 Superman, Deathstorm. So I'm happy, and I love the scaling of this Atrocitus. I wish he was a little more sculpted, like the DC Direct one. But nonetheless, to get that big of a Build-A-Figure wave figure from these four, that beats Hasbro hands down. I do wish, though, that Todd would have caught on with the bendy wire cape earlier, because these two would have definitely benefited from it. But other than that, and of course the one complaint that I have is I wish that the butterfly joints were a little more pronounced on a lot of figures, because then you could get that full range of motion. And I mean, I know he has it, but these two are kind of meh. But they are beautiful looking, and they're going to look great on a shelf, or as I like to say, photogenic, because I cannot wait to start taking pictures of these guys. It's going to be awesome. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics, and grab this set. It is definitely worth it, my friends. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Green Lantern bell next, subscribe. That way, as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below, or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, photo slideshow coming up next. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.